What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Mommy Confessions. My name is Angel Lakita Moore, also known as ThatChickAngel, and I am one of your hosts, and I am so excited to be here with you today. If this is your first time ever listening or watching this podcast, first of all, thank you so much for coming by. Second of all, please make sure that you rate and review us, especially on Apple Podcasts. It makes us more discoverable. And if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, please make sure you are following those pages and click the notification bell on YouTube to be notified of when I upload more footage. Mommy Confessions is a show all about being real, being honest, being transparent about all things motherhood and things dealing with being just a woman. And I have a very special, very special guest today. She's been on here. She's been on Mommy Confessions more than anyone else, besides myself. She's the woman that created me. Everybody, please give a warm welcome to my mother, Dorothy May Moore. Hi, Mommy.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Angel. How are you? I am wonderful.
You look wonderful. You look gorgeous. I love this top.
Well, thank you.
Yes, the polka dots. I'm here for it, lady.
Alrighty then. Yes.
Yes. And yes, we would be remiss without saying happy belated birthday, because this birthday girl just turned 70 years old.
Yay!
How does 70 feel, Mama? What does that feel like?
You know, Angel, it feels wonderful. It feels like a milestone that has occurred in my life without even my permission. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful to have been on this side of my journey for all these years and thinking back to all that I could remember. Mm-hmm. It was wonderful just celebrating that day. God gave me a perfect day. The weather was awesome, and I just enjoyed the fact that my daughters honored me so greatly, and it was just a wonderful birthday, and it's been wonderful turning 70. I can't compare it to anything. I can just say it stands on its own merit. Being 70 has its own rite of passage, and it's just good.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you look amazing. You look like 70 looks amazing. That's what how you make a 70 look like. Like, it's a breeze. This is what I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we start off every episode of Mommy Confessions with a confession. Needs to be something honest, true. It just has to be, that's basically it. It doesn't have any other parameters other than it needs to be honest and true. So, Mama,
yes.
What is your confession?
My confession is that, well, I have several, but I'll just go with the one that just popped in my head. Getting this weight off and keeping it off is not easy. I keep setting up a schedule, but I keep eating outside of that schedule. I mean, I made this soup and I was doing real good, but to be honest, I deviated several times, and now I think I just fell off the wagon. I have fallen, I confess, I have fallen off the wagon that I set for myself. But with the understanding that it's all a matter of getting back up on the wagon and staying on it. But I'm off the wagon right now, but I am planning to get back on to lose the weight. I must lose the weight. It's not you look okay. It's not about looking okay. Health is something you have to work at.
Yes. I think what will help is if you stop doing such harsh diets. If y'all don't know this, my mother, there is no like, okay, I'll just eat in moderation or I'll just eat better. She's like, let me starve myself and eat just gruel for the next 4 weeks and I'll lose the weight. So then it becomes harder to like stay on the path.
You are correct.
I knew you weren't coming back. I knew that you were falling off when I heard what you wanted for your birthday dinner. I was like, Red Lobster? I was like, in all the world made her decide, you know what? I'm gonna have what was it? It was just because that's when you know that you have been like really like keeping your body from having things when what you want is something that's garbage. Like
Yeah.
I,
You're correct.
I know when I fast, I'll be like, you know what I want when I get off my fast? Burger King. I don't like Burger King, but even garbage be sounding good to me when I'm like, I don't I don't know if I can have that right now, but once this is all said and done, I want it. So no worries.
Well, I did enjoy writing everything down that I was eating when I was really on the wagon. Writing down everything that I put in my mouth was a nice adventure.
Uh-huh.
But when you fall off the wagon, you just don't pick up the pen no more. You just say, I'm not telling nobody I ate this, and that, in that. So
You got to start writing it down so you can be like, what's good about that then is when the weight doesn't move, you're not like, how did this happen? You could be like, oh yeah, on this day when I had this, and this is what.
Yes. I think also I need to be in the surrounding that is conditioned for me to stay. But when you have ribs in the background and you got all the salmon, you got all the salmon croquettes, and you got all this stuff smelling up your nostril, and you eating this bland soup.
Right.
I'm not as strong as I had hoped I would be at 70.
Yeah. And you know what? Who should be eating bland soup? Nobody. You shouldn't be eating bland soup. But yeah, just being able to give yourself permission to say, you know what, I'm going to have half of a salmon croquette and not,
Yes,
the four.
that's true.
But it is hard. I get it. It is hard. The thing call your name and you'll be like, hello, I'll answer the call. Thank you.
Oh my God, I promise you. And Daisy loves to cook.
Oh, I get it. So my confession is I'm going to take the confession. This baby. He's got a confession apparently too. It's mommy confession, not baby confession. And what are you chewing on? He's chewing on something like he's got bubble gum in his mouth. Oh, of course, the earbud. Okay, so my confession is something that me and you had just talked about. I confess I am so excited for you to be here next week.
Oh my God. Yay!
So for those of y'all who didn't know, my mother has been in Kentucky for the past 3 months because of COVID-19. She had headed out there to march in a parade with my sister. The parade got canceled when she got out there. Then I was supposed to be coming out there for my other sister's vow renewal. And that's when things started to really pop off with COVID, and the NBA had canceled their season. The NCAA had canceled their season. There was like major things being canceled. So I'm like, if these people who have billions of dollars on the line are canceling things, then that means, yeah, I should probably stay where I'm at. So we also told my mother to stay where she was at to avoid her, because travel hadn't slowed down enough. People were still in the airports. I was just like, nah, you stay where you at because you're over 60.
Yes.
You have underlying health issues. We're not trying to be up in the hospital with you on a ventilator. So now that things have been opening back up, my mother is finally coming back home.
Yes.
And we're so excited. I'm excited. Her grandchildren are equally as excited. So we can't wait. As of so this goes up on Thursday. So only 5 days after that, you'll be here.
Yes. I will be there. I'm looking forward. I am also excited about it too, for all of the right reasons. I just miss being in California. I miss you all so much, especially my 4 boys.
No, yeah. Well,
I'm gonna try to use different disciplinary things for them, so that I don't get wore down and wore out. But I don't know whether it's going to work.
I know. I'm like, again, just don't even worry about it.
It's here and not there, right?
Right. So I want to be able to jump back into the story that we have been telling about my mom's life. And due to the fact that we've already done two parts of the story, and I want to be able to get finished with this series today, I want to pick up from our move from Baltimore to North Carolina. But let me fill in the space a little bit for
Okay.
people.
All right.
So, picking up from part 2, my mother had married my sister's father, Ernest Moore. You all were married for how many years?
We met in 75. I'm going to say almost 6 years.
They were married for 6 years before they divorced. So y'all didn't officially divorce until 81?
Yeah, wait, I met him in 72, but we got married in 75.
Right. When were y'all officially not married?
Right after you were born. So it had to be 81. Yes.
Okay.
81. Mm-hmm.
So you all were separated for a year?
Yes.
Okay. So in 1980, 79, 80, when my mother separated from her then husband, she got pregnant with me, not by him, by my father. And then her and my sister's dad, Ernest Moore, they divorced. And my mother was raising us as a single mom in Baltimore. Who was your help? Was grandma living? How long did grandma live with us? Because at some point in time, I remember her being our help, other hand.
She started living with us when you was about 5 or 6, just before you started going to school. Because you remember, okay. Yeah, Mama lived with me off and on throughout her life. So, but I think you would have remembered when she came, when you get on the bus and go. And so that was around 4, 5, and 6 for you.
So what was that like, having your mom, like I've had you live with me. What was it like having your mom live with you?
Mom was so stubborn and so set in her ways, and she didn't follow no rules, because she was a smoker. And if you recall, she would do y'all's hair sometimes, and ashes would be in the top of y'all's head because she would smoke her cigarette. And, you know, I think the kids, well, especially Jackie and Daisy, they would try to give her an ashtray, and she would let her ashes grow so long on her cigarette. Then a couple times when she was doing y'all's hair, it was like, oh, let me get these ashes out your head. But she was, you know, and I've always was raised, you know, you don't mess with your adults. They're adults, and no matter that I'm adult, but she was my mom, so she got a lot of liberty. She was embarrassing sometimes, but, you know, you have to live with it.
What would she do that was embarrassing?
Well, you know, I worked in the IT profession, and sometimes after work, we would go to what we call our water hole, where we would go there, and normally the VP would buy drinks for everybody. And so Mama had my car. She came to pick me up. So they said, oh, let her come in. And she came in. And for some reason, she decided she's going to drink Boilermakers. And that's what a shot in beer. They drink beer and a shot of liquor. And she just got so drunk. I mean, she got, oh my God. And then when she gets drunk, she was very flirtatious. And she would flirt, and she was time enough for any of those dudes up in there. She would talk about them. Talking about, oh, you don't want that piece of this. If you get this, you know, you're going to leave your wife and your kids. You know, she was just all and believe me, she crossed all barriers. There was no restriction.
Oh, wow.
There was any, Asians there, but I think she would have gave them a run for their money too. But she was something. So it was like, Mom, it's time to go. It's time to go. So we got home. I still was so upset with her. If you remember, we had a hill down at the house on Sawmill Branch Road.
Yes, she did.
I got out. She was so tipsy. She rolled right on down the hill, and I let her too. I did. I was like, oh. I let her roll down to the bottom. I went down the steps, and I got her up and took her in the house. I'm like, oh my God, how can you embarrass me like this? You know,
And
because
at that time, Grandma was not. Grandma's only 18. Was only 18 years older than you.
That's all. Yes, 18 years older
So
than
she
me.
was only like 48 at the time.
If I was 30, what, how old? 30,
30
if I was,
me.
say it again, yeah, I had you, so I was about 34. So yeah, she had to be 52, something like that.
52, 52 acting a fool.
Oh, mama.
So we were in Baltimore, from what I can recall, until I was 6 years old. And
That is correct.
I had told this story via my first Ask Angel, Ask Me Anything, that I do for my Patreon as a Patreon exclusive. My first one, I was telling them how I got to California. But for those of y'all who didn't see it, tell them what prompted us to relocate from Baltimore to North Carolina.
Well, I always, from the time that my mom kidnapped us and brought us to Baltimore, I've always wanted to go back to North Carolina. I never liked Baltimore because I was too much of a country girl, and I wanted to go back to North Carolina. Well, one night, and it was around Mother's Day, this guy tried to climb in the bedroom window where you and Melissa were sleeping at. And since it's just me and my 4 daughters, Daisy was in her room, the room where her and Melissa slept, not Melissa, her and Jackie slept. So Jackie was in my bed. And so you and Melissa was in the bed, and Daisy was in the room, and Melissa ran in my room, Mommy, a man is coming through the window. Well, then, that just shook our whole world. I was so petrified, but I got you all out the room, got y'all in the room with me, barricade the door and called the police. And they caught the man and all that, but it just disturbed me so bad that someone would come into our house like that, and it was just us defenseless women, mother and her kids. So I decided that I just need to leave this city. Once and for all, I need to just do it. So I ended up going to put in a resume sent my resume to North Carolina for a job, and the day before we left, someone called and they offered me the job. So I went there with a job in Raleigh, Durham area. So that's how we got there. And we never went back to Baltimore to live from that point.
Yeah, we surely didn't. So in North Carolina, like I have memories of North Carolina, but they're not as vivid as Baltimore or as Kentucky. What was it like going? Now, we weren't back in your hometown, obviously. We were in an actual
we did go. We did go to my hometown. We stayed with Joe Lee. He was about 5 miles from where I was raised at. We stayed with Joe Lee.
How long did we stay with them? I don't recall this at all.
Yeah, we stayed with them for almost a month, because when I went there, I would just make the 60-mile drive to Raleigh to work and come back every day. And I would do that. And then finally, after, got my first paycheck and stuff, I got a place not far from where I worked at in Raleigh, Durham.
Okay.
It was more Durham. It was more Durham, North Carolina than Raleigh. So we moved to Durham after the fact, but we stayed with Jolie for almost 4 weeks.
That's why I don't remember it. That's a short period of time. I probably, it sounds like a visit.
And we moved from North Carolina to Kentucky in 87. So we was only there for 1 year, just a little over a year. So
and why did we move from Raleigh to Greenville?
Because the contract that I went there for ended. And so then I got another contract, but it was in Greenville. So I couldn't make that commute. Making the commute from my brother's house, I had, other adults there to look out for you all. But going to Greenville, it was too far. From Durham to Greenville was too many miles. And I got another contract. So
in the year that you were there, were you able to reconnect with anyone? Was there, like I said, North Carolina, it does not have a lot of vivid memories. I remember going to school in Durham, and I remember the summer in Greenville. But I don't remember I don't remember making any friends or anything like that. What was it like for you? You don't remember going to Mother's house and Mother we would go there, because I enjoyed listening to my mother.
mother, my grandmother, tell her story, because she was still alive, and I would try to go see her every weekend. But it did. You all didn't like going in that hot house because the trailer, no air condition, no nothing.
Yes.
And so Daisy, you remember that? And Daisy had said, "Mama, can't you just leave us here and you go down?" So I would leave y'all there with Daisy. But that's the only person I connected with was my immediate family. I didn't really have any friends at all when I lived in Durham, as far as people that I really hung out with.
No, and I remember seeing, going to visit Mulla, as we called her, the woman who raised my mom. This is who we went back to visit. But again, it's not placed in my head as when we lived in North Carolina. I just think, oh, we used to go visit her. So then you get a job offer for a place you had never been, because by this time you hadn't been any other places. Is this true? What other places had you been besides New York, Baltimore, and North Carolina?
That was, those were the only places I had been so far.
In your entire life?
In my entire life, yes.
So to put it in perspective, you're now going further west. Now, granted, it's not like California, but you're going further west to a place where we know no one and you've never been. Kentucky.
Yes.
My mother, by this time, you're doing you're now used to doing contracted work, things that are just for a period of time.
Yes. I stopped being a permanent employee, gave up the benefits, and went out as an independent consultant. So I just take whatever contracts I could get. The longer the better, but the one that I went to North Carolina lasted 8 months, and then the one in Greenville only lasted 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So that was why I was open for another contract. And they asked me about going to Kentucky, which I thought Kansas was where Kentucky was, because I couldn't remember. And they, the people that reached out to me they tried to help me know where Kentucky was. They asked me about the Kentucky Derby, which I knew nothing about a Kentucky Derby. They said, you know, the horse race. I said, well, I walk behind too many mules to care anything about a horse. So, and I'm like, what are you talking about, a horse race? That was foreign to me.
Uh-huh.
And so, but they did fly me in for the interview.
Okay. So you saw Kentucky and you were like, we can make this work.
No. I had made up my mind. I had just found a church in Greenville, and they had let me preach there. And the pastor even asked me, he says, well, since you're a contract, you may not be here long. I said, oh, I'm going to be here a long time, I believe. And
we skipped something. Hold on real quick because you just mentioned it. You were already preaching. When did you accept your calling to preach? Because that was in Baltimore, and I'm sorry I left that out. When did that happen?
That happened in 84.
In 84.
December the 5th in 1984, I preached my initial sermon. They called it trial sermons back then. But in June, I went into the pastor's office and said, I believe that God is called. No, I think it was March. I went and said, I believe that God is calling me to preach. And he said, okay, when you're sure, come back. So I had already told God that I was going to tell him, but it was really up to the pastor. So I told God, well, I told him that's what he said, so I'm done with this. Uh-huh. But then the understanding that God has more control than I do of me, I soon found out. That was when I used to get lost coming home. My mama thought I was losing my mind, but it was more because God had me in a suspended mode of reasoning, like, I've called you, you have to do this. And I'm giving him every reason under the sun why you're not calling me. I can't pronounce those words in the Bible, those I-tites and T-tites or whatever kites. And I says, I can't do any of that. Evangelists come to church on a Wednesday night. And that was what got everything started, because she'd ask people, if you want to know what your gift is, come up to the altar. So I went to the altar and she said, what are you doing up here? Go sit down. And I'm like, did I misunderstand the question? So She looked at my face and saw how I was like, I don't understand why you're making me sit down. She said, I'll talk to you afterwards. So she had talked with the people at the altar, prayed for them. So she came to me. She says, I don't understand why you like, don't you know that God has called you to preach? I said, oh no, God would never call me to do that. She said, why you say that? I said, because God wouldn't do that. So she says, well, what have you been doing with the messages you've been writing down? She said, I believe God, have you been writing messages? I said, yes. She said, what you gonna do with us to give them to the pastor? She said, that's not the way God works. I said,
so wait a minute, you have been writing messages?
Oh yeah, I had, yes.
What what pulled you to write, like what did you put that on when you were, was it like, that would be a good message, or was it like, oh, God's telling me to write this down? What was that? What was pulling you to do that?
Both of those. It would come in, and most of the time in like early in the morning, like 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock, I would get up and I would start writing, and it would just be pouring in. I'd be writing, and I'm going, okay, but I didn't have any understanding of how being called into the ministry really worked, especially when it's the furthest thing from my desired choice I want to do. And so, but she told me that, she said, no, it doesn't work that way. She said, I tell you what you do. She said, do this. She said, you go and you ask God, say, God, if you are calling me to preach, give me a specific message. And if that happens, then you know he's calling you. Well, I said, I ain't asking God nothing.
Right.
I just, but then that's when things started becoming very confusing, simple things. And then mine crying in the middle of the moments, and everybody wondered what's wrong, and nothing's wrong, but it was like God was saying, you can't run from me. And I tell him, when I can understand how Jonah felt. I felt like I was trying to not admit something that he would say, you are called. So finally, even after I first mentioned it to Bishop Miles, and he told me to come back when I was sure, after so much wrestling with God, I went back and says, I am sure that God is calling me to preach it. He scheduled my trial sermon for December the 5th, 1984. And I preached, they heard it, but they rejected it.
So wait a minute, Mama. When did you start going to church?
Oh, I started going, okay, I registered that I got born again in 79. I went to church then in 79 in 78. I'm wrong. 79, when October, November, I had went, and that was a different.
So while you were pregnant with me,
I was not pregnant with you. So it had to be 78.
Okay.
No, I was not pregnant with you.
Okay.
Because Ernest and I were still together. It was after I left Ernest.
Okay.
After Ernest and I separated was when I got pregnant. So I was not pregnant.
Okay. So you started, somebody invited you to church?
No, the devastating act in the house caused me to go to find relief. So that's what happened. I never forget, I believe that the night that I stood in the window, living in Yattaruba Drive, and you all were asleep, Ernest was asleep, everybody was asleep, I stood there and says, I am some kind of lucky woman. I have a husband, I have kids, I have a house we're buying, and I have cars. And I believe that night, God said these words, and I'm playing my life back now, but he said, you fool, your soul is required of you this night. And I think from that statement, for all the turmoil that happened, that's how I end up finding my way to God through his son, Jesus Christ. That's how that just, sometimes, you think you want, because I didn't have that love like I have for him now. I was more like thinking I'm dotting I's and crossing T's, and that's why I'm successful, because I'm doing this. I didn't give God his credit or glory for anything. I thought it was me. But I promise, when he snatched that rug from up under sister girl here, and I made my way to, when I went through the transformation of being, I was literally born again with a physical experience.
So let's skip back to where we were, or skip forward to where we were.
Okay.
You said, I am staying in Greenville. I done found a church. They're going to let me preach. They done flew you out to Kentucky, and you're like, nah, I'm good. What all changed?
Well, I went out and I knew after the interview, I was working for General Electric, GE in Louisville. I flew in, they interviewed me, and I knew that they liked me. So when I got back, I still had because they did an interview like a Friday, a weekend. So I came back and was in the office working, and I knew, I said, they're going to call me and I got to give them an answer. And so what I did, I went in the bathroom and did a T-chart. The reasons to go to Kentucky and the reasons not to go. The only reason to go to Kentucky was because my contract was ending and I needed work. Reason to stay was because, well, we just found we was living in a brand new apartment in Greenville, and I have just found a church home, and I'm like, spiritual food is more important than physical food. I mean, I laid it out. And so I came back to my desk, and I was ready for them to call me, because I knew they were going to call. The phone rang, and instead of being them, it was Daisy. And Daisy said to me, Mommy, I was half asleep or half awake, but God told me to tell you that there are churches in Kentucky.
Daisy said that to
Daisy said that to me. I hung the phone up, went back to the bathroom, and I was looking up going, who in here? Who? I was looking around, who? I said, oh, and I was like, oh my God. Because you all had asked me, Mommy, are we going to Kentucky? I said, no, we ain't going to Kentucky. I told you we were not going. Because that was all me thinking that why go someplace I'll get a job. But when I got back to my desk after checking out the bathroom to see who was in there, the phone rang again. And we know the rest of the story. They offered me the job, but then I still being stubborn. Well, I can't. I have 3 daughters I got to bring to Kentucky. It's no way I'm coming into Kentucky with 3 daughters. I got to have some place for them to live. I got to have money to travel with. They gave me money to travel with. The people picked up our furniture. They get everything that I tried to use as an excuse.
You took away.
They took away. So I came to Kentucky knowing without a doubt that it was the divine will of God for us to come to Kentucky.
So we get here, and one thing that me and Melissa remember is we lived in a hotel. That was the funnest moment of my life, to live in a hotel for the period of time that we did. So you're getting your footing. We get to Kentucky and you're getting your footing. First of all, how did you even find a place for us to live? Like, how is that? Like, I have moved across country. However, it was for school. So I knew where I was going to stay. I was going to stay at the school. But the thought of actually having to move my family across country and not know anyone would just, even with me having a husband, it would kind of be mind-boggling. So how did you even go about that? Like, what was that like? Single mom. Well, you only mind you, by this time we're down to 3 daughters.
Yeah, just 3. Yes. Because Jackie didn't go to North Carolina with us.
Right. So she stayed in Kentucky. Yes. She got married.
Stayed in Baltimore. She stayed in
Baltimore. Sorry. She stayed in Baltimore. She got married. By this time, she already had her second child.
That's the first child. She hadn't had by the time we went to Kentucky?
Yeah, by the time we went to Kentucky.
Absolutely.
She had 2 kids.
You're correct.
So, yes, please continue.
So what happened when I came for the interview, and Mary Hester, because that's how Illinois is not that far from Kentucky, so she met me. But in the meantime,
for those of y'all who don't know, is my mother's sister. Go ahead.
My knee baby sister. So she came down, but in the meantime, I have always said, okay, when you don't know a city, best to try to not live all the way across town from your job. So I had a rental car. So I rode around near the job, and I found 6 Mile Lane in Breckenridge, the Breckenridge Square. When I saw those single dwelling homes, I went into the office and asked for an application, and told her that I was being transferred for my job and whatnot. And I filled out the application before I left the city and dropped it off. Because I said, well, if it was like one of those things where even though I didn't think I was coming, I knew that I couldn't bring 3 girls across without knowing where you all were going to live at. They were going to put me in a hotel like they did for the 2 weeks because it took that long for them to transport our stuff. So they said, well, we are going to, we'll put you up. We'll pay for that until your stuff gets there and until the movers bring your stuff. So I tried to pick a place. It looked clean. It looked nice. The thing about coming to a city, you try to ask people gently where to move to. Now, I remember one person wanted me to go to the West End because the fact that I'm Black, they figured I want to go where the Black people were.
They wanted us in the West End of Louisville. Why?
Because here's a Black female coming into a predominantly white, men and women, and you say, well, I have to look for a place. Well, what kind of place you looking for? And you're trying to be polite to say, I said, well, I want a place where I could feel safe with my daughters because, it's just us. And they said, well, West End got some nice places there now, I've heard. Now, they didn't live in the West End. And so I took it, like I said, because of the job location off of Newburgh Road, I stayed in that vicinity and I found, so the application got turned in. When they called me and told me I had the job, I called her back and she said, well, you got it, but because you moved around a lot, we're going to need an extra deposit. So I called the people back, thinking, great, this is my out. Guys, I cannot come because I can't get a place. They might, They said, okay, we'll write you a check for that. So they paid the extra 18. I think I ended up giving them 3 months rent. It was like $600 a month there. So they, $1,800. So they made it out to that company and sent it to them. And she, my place was ready when we got there. But my stuff took a while. So
was that your first time working with a company that was willing to put so much money towards you becoming an employee?
Absolutely. But again, I find that people pay for what they want. And when they want you, and GE, GE is back then was a big company and still is to a degree, I believe. But their IT department was they needed my talent. They needed my talent, and they act like they needed mine. And I was with them for 4 years. It was supposed to be a 2-year contract, but I was with them for 4 years.
So let's fast forward to finding a church there, because that was like, I feel like what got us kind of acclimated to Kentucky living. How did that even happen? How did you find the church we ended up at?
Watson Memorial Baptist Church was located, across Breckenridge. You come out and you make a right, then you make a left. It was right there. Now, I said, so God said this to me. He said, the church that you join will invite you in the pulpit the Sunday that you introduce yourself as a minister. And that's exactly what Reverend Wilson did. Well, first of all, that I had come into myself as far as me and God, and I have no problem being the only one praising God. I'm a solo. I don't need company. You want to join me, amen, but you don't have to.
Right.
So, and that's what happened when I was there in the choir, because Baptist choirs, they can sing. You hear me? They can rock the house. They can sing. And so they were singing, and the song sound good. And we had gotten to Kentucky, no incidents, no accidents. I was like, oh, I'm grateful. So I'm up and I'm praising. And Reverend Wilson says, I don't know who that woman is, but did she make us feel like praising God? Because they had, I'll take you with me if you want to go. You know me, come on. I mean, I'll ignite a fire. May gonna make a fire. So he asked me who I was, and that's when I said I was a minister. They said, well, come on up here. And they get up and they got me a chair and they set me in the pulpit that Sunday. So the next Sunday we joined, and that's where we started our spiritual journey in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes, that is so crazy how God set all of that up. Because I remember us living near that church, and I remember my best friend, her grandmother, like me and her, she became my best friend.
Right.
Yeah, remember Tanisha? I'm friends with Tanisha. She just had a baby.
Oh my God.
My one of my classmates ended up also being a member of that church at the new school that Mama had to put us at. So like me and her became best friends.
Oh my
and then
God.
my sister ended up having, they were like kids our age, which was just like crazy. And then, yeah, the fact that my mother, because here's the thing, Kentucky is a very split place. It's different now, but it just became different. There are a lot of, especially because at the time we were only going to Baptist churches.
Right.
Very split with whether or not they accepted women saying they were called to preach. I don't know if it was like that in Baltimore, but I know it was like that in Kentucky.
It was like that, but Bishop Miles had such a network of churches, and that's why it never seemed like it was a problem. Okay. And I don't think I ever preached out, maybe once. I think I was asked to preach in Baltimore after I got ordained a license. Mm-hmm. But I didn't do a lot of stuff outside because I was still coming into, I didn't see what happened when I got to North Carolina. I really had told God I wasn't going to preach no more. Mm-hmm. And then every message he gave me, I could hear somebody else preaching. It just roused. So when I got to Greenville, that was the first time I preached in North Carolina. Because I was like, don't nobody know I'm a minister. I'm not going to tell them.
But so yeah, we were at Watson Memorial Baptist Church for a nice period of time, and then something changed.
Yes.
What happened?
That another turmoil, another carpet being snatched under. You remember, I got married again.
Yes. And I, for some reason, I'm trying to, and obviously I know you got married again, but I couldn't put whether or not that happened before or after we left Watson. So,
no, because
how did you meet Dr.
Donald Sullivan?
Dr. Don. How did you meet Donald Sullivan?
The hair doctor. I met him, I started playing softball. I started playing softball at Newburgh with the adult mixed softball team. So I started playing softball, and that's where I met Donald, because he was the coach of the softball team. Yes.
I don't know how you met that man. I do not know. I don't even know. I just know he was there, and I was like, well, here we are.
Here we go. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we were married for 1 year and 2 months. Yes.
So what drew you to marry him? Because I have several opinions of him, and I'll keep most of them to myself. But
you can share.
No, I mean, yes, I definitely know I can.
Okay.
But what about him drew you in to begin with?
Well, because of the things that happened with Ernest, I've always tried to look for a real strong man, a man that was very opinionated, and Donald fit that mold. But I didn't.
Strong and opinionated guy.
He was strong, opinionated, but again, now keep in mind, a man can't hit me or look like he could hit me because I can't deal with the violence. You just can't. And so he showed that he was very confident and all that, and he had the cutest bow legs and whatnot he had. Anyway, so all of that was attractive to me, and his name. And one thing I've learned about small cities or small communities, when you're a new girl, everybody so naturally, Dr. Don wanted to be the first one to the table with the new girl. But he also did not know that I played for keeps. Because I think if left up to him, he probably never would.
Yes, then what I recall us not knowing whether or not he was going to show up to the wedding.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, but yes, because he knew he had to marry me, because here I am a minister. We're not going to be sleeping together and acting like we just friends. So he knew that was a requirement, and he fought it, and for a lot of reasons. But again, what I brought to the table was something so different than what he ever had. You remember his little house and the houses we lived in and the house he had?
Yeah, I remember living in Newburgh.
You remember that
little house? Yes.
That little house, and then how I'm working in the IT field, making more money than he can make in a year. Mm-hmm. It just was so much for him to embrace. I think he wanted it, but he never, the wedding was what the wedding was, or the marriage was what the marriage was, but we weren't married long. And
did he propose, Ma? Or did you just say we getting married on this day?
well, no, he proposed. I mean, he gave me a ring. I didn't
listen.
really
I don't
nobody
know.
to the
I'm
altar.
asking.
He did. He gave me a ring. He proposed. But again, I think if he could have put everything on the table, he wanted me and he didn't want me. Yeah, I don't know how, what I come to know about Donald is that he loved me in his own way, but the worlds were coming together and they were worlds that could not fit. They were never going to fit. But he was hoping, it was almost like he was hoping I could save him from where he wanted to get out of the life that he was living. And I was the ticket out. But God has a special thing about me. You know, he knows I got about enough faith in him to jump in, but I also know when it's time to get out. And that's the way it was. But he really, that's what he wanted, to be saved from his old life. I'm sure he probably sold drugs, did a whole bunch of stuff. But you know, I was a little naive to that world. Like I'm not Judy. Judy would have been able to pick it right up. But I'm sure he had some
other sister, just in case you all it's another younger sister.
So that's why it didn't work, because it was too much of the different sides of the tracks trying to come together.
So, okay. So, Dr. Don, excuse me. Yeah. There was instances that happened in the house. I remember after you had gotten surgery, you all having a big fight, and it came to physical blows.
Yes.
You hadn't dealt with abuse in a relationship since your first husband. So what was going through your mind then?
Well, like I said, I've never been a woman that you could hit and then turn around and tell me you love me. It's got to be one or the other. It can't be both. Mm-hmm. So, come to church because I was a singles ministry, and I didn't know he would have those moodiness. And I, get dressed, get undressed, get into bed and whatnot. And I said, and I had changed the bedroom around, so I'm trying to figure out why he's in this bad mood. So I said to him, I said, you upset because I changed the room around? And he hit me. I saw stars and everything. And so I was really frightened, because I'm like, he can't hit me again. And then at that point, I was ready for both of us to go out that window together, because it's like I get so scared that no one knows, but I don't like to fight. Mm-hmm. I think my fighting equates to kill. It doesn't hit you, hit me, I hit you. It doesn't do that. Mm-hmm. So then after I had the surgery, that incident, he acted like he was getting ready to hit me, and I had the phone in my hand, and I busted him in the head with the blood went everywhere. And that's when we left. I said, come on. And I'm glad you all are kids that can tell my tone. When I said, come on, y'all came out the house, and we got in the car and left. And then, came back, and the other stuff that went with all of this, which caused us to leave. And but that's now, I'm getting up to how we came out of the Baptist church. We went to counseling with Pastor Wilson and all that. But we left. We went, we talked, but the situation with me, I'm very, when I say God told me something, or I know that God, I'm not having any stomach aches. It's not something I'm making up. So what I did, I said, okay, now wait a minute. I said, God, and this husband number 3. And I said, now God, wait a minute. I carry your Bible. I preach from your Bible. I have the faith the size of a mustard seed and then some. How can I be so in you and marry the wrong person? Mm-hmm. I said, this is not making sense to me, God. I need to understand what's going on. And so I told Pastor Wilson, I said, there is something missing here. I don't believe that shouting on Sunday morning and doing all that. I want God to be seen in my life. I want to live God. I don't want to just talk about it. So I told him that I was leaving the church. And he says, because I had made some friends. You remember Reverend Coleman and some people, and the speaking in tongues, the people that talk more about the spiritualness of God, because the Baptist talks about all of his miracles. And they'll tell you God will do it again, but they never deal with the spiritual side. And I'm like, that's got to be more to God than what I'm doing, because something is wrong. So I that's when we started going to Evangel. Now, we never joined Evangel, but we started going to Evangel because I wanted to see the God of the Bible. I want to see people healed, see people delivered. I want to see arms go out in church. I want to see wars goes off people's arms. That's the God I was looking for. And you remember how you all was very, not very happy about that.
So let me explain to you all. So, like I said, at Watson, I've got my best friend. My sister has her best friend. She has a boyfriend there. We are living our best lives. It's a predominantly Black church. I don't think there was anybody there that wasn't Black. Then Mama then got a little something in her spirit. And she was like, there's something more. There's got to be something more. And she starts taking us to different types of services. And for those of you all who are not Christians or who have never dealt with the charismatic or a church that deals with the gifts of the Spirit, the first time I'd ever heard someone speak in tongues, I was like, what are they saying? I was like, what are they saying? Like, I don't know what are they saying? Like, I don't know what's happening. And so Mom explained, she's like, speaking in tongues. It's, the Holy Spirit speaking through them. And I was just like, nah, these people ain't making no sense. So then there was a church that was located in Kentucky, a predominantly white church. There was probably just a couple of specks of Black people, right, around. And she starts sending us there. We are like, this is so whack, because we go from like our Baptist singing, I'm trying to think of a song that we would have sang in the Baptist church, but something that got some get up to it, to like, he's good, I know he's good. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this that my mother has set us up in? The only benefit was that church service was like only 30 to 45 minutes. Church service was so short. Like, they would end service and we'd be like, you mean it's over? Like, we can go home? Like, are y'all sure? But she's right. It was a church where we got to see people healed for the first time. I remember my sister had a cyst on her wrist. It's a big old cyst that they said that she was going to have surgery to remove it. And so we like, well, these folk, they saying the Lord can do some things. They talk about the Lord can make them walk. So she went up there to get prayer for her wrist and came back, and her cyst was gone. I think that's when we finally were sold. We were like, wait a second. Wait 1 minute. There's something real going on here. Yeah, but no, we were not happy because it was so, while we were getting, a whole nother level of God and spiritual gifts and stuff like that, like seeing their youth, the white youth, they were really into God. They were also the type that you would be like, I hope y'all don't do nothing crazy up in one of these schools or anything like that. But like, they would be worshiping with their hands up. But while it was nice to have that experience, it was also tough because it removed us completely from what we culturally knew. Yeah. So how was the evangel experience for you?
Well, see, what got me was they could do, even though we got out, and it wasn't an hour, it wasn't 30 minutes. We would be there for a solid hour, but they would do everything we did in the Baptist church, pray for 300 people, and we still be out and on our way home in an hour.
Right.
And that was one of the things. I'm like, well, why why is our church service so long and theirs is so concise, but they're getting the same things done? And because I was looking for that powerful miracle working God, and you remember that was where we would pray for Jackie's deliverance. Remember how they delivered, somebody got delivered of crack cocaine, and we said, well, wait a minute, and we started just praying every night. And
all right, we surely did. Oh, so my eldest sister Jackie, who had stayed back in Baltimore, had developed an addiction to crack while we were gone. Her and her husband had started using. And yes, I do remember. And then there was definitely a time where we were praying for my sister every single night. I remember that as a little girl, praying for her. Yep. So that came from Evangel.
That came from Evangel, because we knew, see, the Baptist church didn't emphasize interceding for someone until the victory come. They just told us to pray for one another, but they never put the emphasis. But we were in service when people got delivered from these addictions, and I'll never forget, we all looked at each other and we said, Jackie. And every night the rule was whoever went to bed first, that's the bed we would go and pray around. We would go, if you went to bed before, we would come and pray in your room. And we prayed the Lord's Prayer, because we sure did not know how to do the eatable, we didn't know how to do none of that.
Right.
So all we did was pray the Lord's Prayer. And at the end of the prayer, we would say, remember Jackie. And we would go on. It was no ritual. It wasn't no whole bunch of stuff that people have said you have to do to get it done. No, you just do what's in your heart.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh my God, I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Now, are you missing your time for your audition? What time do we have?
I sent it off. I just did it while we were on here.
Oh, well, praise God. Well, I forgot you was a multitasker.
You already know.
I should know that.
Okay, so we are at Evangel for a while, and
yes.
What was it? Our move to Lexington that made us leave Evangel? Where did we go?
No,
I remember. Go ahead. I remember the people.
You remember the other pastor, Ken Barnes, his 2 sons,
yes,
his wife. That's where that's the Pentecostal church we joined. Yeah, no, they were who?
Weren't they Kojic? Or that was Pastor Patterson?
Pastor Patterson was Kojic, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So yes.
So we end up going over there.
So you guys, we gotten used to this white church that gets out really quickly. Talk about 30, 45 flat. We getting prayers in, people getting healed, people getting saved, people getting delivered. We done offering, we done terrible praise and worship, because I still can't stand their praise and worship. Then we get good to a Pentecostal Holy Ghost. We gonna tire Jesus out with our praise and our prayer. We're gonna be in here for hours. You're gonna be hungry. You're gonna start a fast that you didn't even know you were planning on starting right here, right now. How did you find the Barnes?
I think it was through Larry Coleman and Ruth Mosey.
Okay.
And you know how, because now that I'm mixing with them, but also let me say this. You remember Pastor Fireman's? We went to the house ministry where Melissa got her deliverance.
Yes.
You remember we were going, so all in those circles, when you get in with the Black Pentecostal, this one, that's how it kind of happened there. With us doing all of this, me taking y'all around trying to find the real God.
Y'all, if you could, I remember the church ministry, because they used to let these older women in there that smelled like urine. They smelled like piss. That was my first time on the pee smell like on adults. On adults. And this is I'm talking about, like, the way the service was. It was like backwoods Pentecostal, where they got you basically spitting in a trash can. It was, I'm now looking back on it. It feels a little bit like trauma now. Looking back on it, because I gotta know, at this time, I might be in middle school, but I'm probably still I'm I'm either in 5th or 6th grade because we left when I was going into left in 7th grade. So I'm either in 5th or 6th grade. So this is like so much, and especially with Black people, because the traumas that they're dealing with, that they are trying to get prayer for, be so heavy. And I'm just like, what is going on? So yes, we ended up in this small Black church with yes, I do remember those two young, I do remember their 2 sons. Ah, yes. All those services were so long. So long.
Yeah.
But yes, so we went, so did we go from the Barnes to Pastor Patterson, or were we ever members of Pastor Patterson's church?
We were never members of Colgate. Just we met them, but no, we never was a member of their church. No.
Okay. So then let's fast forward. We moved to where I was primarily raised. We moved to Lexington. Was it a job that moved you there?
Yes. Another contract. GE ended. I worked for Brown and Foreman, the Jack and Daniels place, and I worked for Brown and Williams, which was a cigarette place in Louisville. I worked for all of them, but then my contract ended, and there was no work, and that's when Clark Material Handling picked me up, but they were in Lexington. And remember, I used to drive to Lexington for a while. Remember when the lightning struck the nail upstairs in the house?
Yeah.
And what I think it was, Melissa says, saved by a nail twice.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, so let me tell y'all that story really quickly. So we had moved back to the neighborhood that we originally moved to when we had moved to Louisville. Because by this time we had moved several times with Mom being married and then getting divorced. We'd already hopped around Louisville a couple of times. So we then moved back to the original neighborhood that we had moved to when we came from North Carolina. At that time, like my mother was saying, she was doing commutes back and forth from Louisville to Lexington, which is about an hour drive. And it was raining and thunder and lightning, and our house got struck by lightning. And all I remember is that our TV stopped working because me and Melissa were at home watching TV. And was Daisy out the house at that time yet, or was Daisy gone?
Daisy was definitely out of the house then. She left when we were. Yeah, she left before I got married to Don. Before I married. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So with Mama's down to only 2 girls in the house. So it's me and Melissa. So Melissa's in middle school. I am in middle school. Melissa's in high school. I'm in middle school. So I remember the TV going out, and I'm just trying to make this TV work because I'm like, there's nothing to do. And then there's beating on the door. Somebody is like, your house just got struck by lightning. Get out of the house. I think they called the fire department.
Yeah, they did.
And we had to go to the neighbor's house up the street. And the only reason why the house did not catch on fire is because the lightning struck the top of a nail. So it ricocheted off instead of setting the house ablaze the way it should have. So my sister, who is always looking for a reason to cry and shout, was like, we were saved by a nail twice, meaning once by the crucifixion, and then another time literally in our house situation. Yeah, I forgot all about that. But I mean, I forgot about telling that. But yes, I remember that situation. So you're down to 2 kids. You're commuting back and forth to Lexington. When the house got struck by lightning, was that like your final straw of like, we just need to move to Lexington?
No, I just was tired of the commute. And then also I was prophesied to by one, I'm trying to think what relationship she was to the Patterson, or was she to the Barnes? One of them, but she prophesied that I was going to buy a 5-bedroom house with a 2-car garage and 3 bathrooms. And she also prophesied that, that it was the will of God for me to move to Lexington.
Okay.
So we
get ready to move to Lexington, and my sister is in her um, junior year of high school.
Yeah, she's completing her junior year. She's getting ready to go be a senior. I know she stayed there last part of her junior year and her whole senior year. So
yes, and I am I'm in 7th grade when we're getting ready to move. Well, my sister Melissa is a brat, and she was like, when we toured the schools in Lexington, she was like, absolutely not. She was not having it. She cried. She was like, I am not going to this school. Mind you, my sister was extremely popular. She was the class president. She was a cheerleading captain. She was on the track team, academic team. So the thought of leaving all of that, leaving her friends, just did not sit well with her. So we left her in Louisville. She stayed with a family that had taken in students before, the Waltons.
The Waltons, yes.
A very nice older white couple let Melissa live in their apartment that was above their garage. So Melissa lived like a grown woman. Her the second half of her junior and senior year. So when we moved to Lexington, it was down to just me and my mother. So going into 7th grade, I was the only child in the house for most of the year. So yes, I just see a Patreon comment. Yes, Erica, it was kind of like they had done, I think, exchange programs, the Waltons, because they had taken in somebody else before. This wasn't their first time, because it was actually the principal's suggestion, correct?
Yes, it was. The principal found a place for Alyssa because she didn't want her to leave. And they told us about the Waltons, and we laughed because when we first got to Lexington, to Kentucky, what would we say at night? Good night, John boy. Good night, Grandpa. Yes, so we would.
Yes, we used to do the good nights that the Waltons used to do at night. So the TV show, The Little House on the Prairie, that family, the Waltons. So we get to Lexington, and we didn't find our church immediately there, did we? What were we doing?
No. Well, Pastor Patterson recommended Greater New Hope. New Hope.
Okay.
Because Pastor, they knew them, but I came up, looked in the paper in Lexington, and saw one house, 5 bedrooms, two car garage, and not 2.5 car, but 2 car and 3 bathrooms. So it was for sale.
Mm-hmm.
Obeying the prophecy. So I came and met the people with no money. Mm-hmm. Remember, they are the ones, the sellers gave me the money to buy the house. That's the only way we left Louisville and moved into that house. Those were the best years. We had a time.
Oh, me and my mother had a time. We had a time. We would watch Quantum Leap on Thursday.
Yes.
In the master suite. But for why didn't you use that as a master suite? You wanted to stay upstairs?
Yeah, I did. Yes.
Okay.
We made that our TV room right in the back.
So the master suite was the TV room, and my mother took one of the bedrooms upstairs, and then I had a bedroom upstairs, and Melissa, when she was in town, had her own bedroom as well. We had our own little bathrooms, and me and Mama, we would go grocery shopping. We would do stir fry, and that was before that was like. Stir fry for us was us being so fancy. Like the fact that we had a wok and that we could put vegetables in it and cook it and put chicken or whatever in there. We really felt like we were doing the darn thing. Then we found Mama started taking us to what was going to be our church home for over a decade. New Hope Christian Center was the name. And that's where I met my best friend, who's still my best friend to this day. Over 20 years. We're going on, I think we're over 25 years now. Yeah, we are over 25 years best friends. Erica. So again, because I have not changed churches that much. What was it like getting acclimated, getting your feet? Like you're now having to prove yourself again as a minister, again as just as a Christian, all these things. What was that like?
It has been very, very difficult going to churches and introducing yourself as a minister. being part of the ministerial staff and trying to make sure you don't overdo it. Since I am an overachiever, I am a multitasker. I'm always raising my hand. Some of the laid back ministers would get offended, and they would, it was kind of tough because I have that outgoing personality. I'm ready. You need me to do something, I'm going to do it. But I was like that even at the Baptist church in Baltimore. I was always doing. One of the things that when I got to Washington, if I could just back up a minute, because I did so much in the church in Baltimore, because I was so grateful for God's salvation, thinking I had to pay for it, I wasn't home enough like I should be with you all. So when I got to Louisville, some of the stuff that Pastor Wilson wanted me to do, I wouldn't do. He would say, but you're part of leadership, because I learned that my home, like I always say now, first church is home. You have to take care of your family. God is not pleased for us trying to take care of everybody else and our home going to hell in a handbasket. That's not God's way. But if you're not careful, leaders will keep you away from your children, keep you away from your husbands, because they have meetings. But I wouldn't. That's the reason I did not get ordained by Pastor Wilson. He ordained everybody. He would not ordain me because I was not submissive enough. But I had proof based on Daisy's and Jackie's life. I had proof that if I didn't be the parent at home more than I was trying to be at church, things could happen. So when I got to New Hope, you were older, you met friends, and some of the mothers were single mothers. They would come over. Barbara would come over with Kenyatta and Carlos, and Carrie with Erica, and Vanilla, all of them. But it kind of made things better because I got church friends or church moms that have a daughter like I did. So go ahead.
It's what's crazy. Me and Erica had this conversation. When I am now older than what her mother was when you all became friends.
Really?
Yes. Erica's mom, I think, was like 33, 34 when you all became friends. That's how I was like, I said, so basically your mama didn't know nothing. I was like, because I didn't know nothing at 33. I was like, just to think back, at that time you were already in your 40s, young 40s though,
yes.
Like 42. So I'm coming up on the age that you were. And like, I don't, as a child looking up to you, I felt like you knew everything. You knew all the answers. But now as the adult approaching that age, I'm like, I don't know a thing. What in the world? Like, I am guessing at everything. But yes, you're right. That was the first time that my friendships, I think, with those girls was so strong because you were friends with their mothers and we did so much stuff together. So we're there. We're living in this one house. We're going to skip forward a little bit and go to your marriage too, because my friends, my Patreon people, they know this name. They've heard me say it. There was one singular Caucasian male at this church.
Yes.
Who we all at this church, we called everybody brother and sister. So he was Brother Ron. What, how, why did you all even start talking to each other in a way that was more than we just here at church?
I can honestly say that was Pastor James' decision for my life, and I accepted it. I did not want to marry Brother Ron. I did not see, Brother Ron was not attractive. I was not attracted to him. He reached out to me, and I was adamant, no, I'm not marrying no white man. I mean, that was my thoughts. And so, but Pastor James, and keep in mind now, the background of this is going to be my fourth marriage. Now, I've already picked 3 marriages and I'm still not married. So I'm thinking maybe somebody else needs to help me. I'm sorry that I made the wrong one be the one to help me, because so I was more, I submitted. Pastor James sent me down, says, Sister Dorothy, he'll be good for your ministry. He really loves you. He's in your, and he, at the time, Brother Ron was very doty, buying gifts and doing things with me. And it was nice. It was something to get used to, but I didn't know I was prejudiced, but I really was. I didn't realize how prejudiced I was till I married Brother Ron. Mm-hmm. Because there were certain things I would not let him do that the black man did more than once. Because I came from the background where they took, if they saw a woman, the black woman that they want, they just took her and nothing she could do about it. Mm-hmm. So I always said, if a white man sleep with me, he gonna marry me, he gonna give me all of it. He's not gonna sample the goods. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I held to that. But again, then I also realized that when I would be coming home thinking about, I'm going home to my husband and I'm going to do this, I would freeze. I'd be like, oh, I ain't. Mm. You know how, you're married. You know how you plan things to have a night with your husband, a date night. I would plan them in my head, but when he hit the door, I'd be going, I don't think so. And I kept saying, come on, Dorothy, you got to do better. That's your husband. And I'm like, mm-hmm.
So wait a minute. No, so how was it Pastor James that got y'all to even start dating? I get him pushing you all to
yes.
So he was like, yes. You should ask her out. You should say yes.
Yes, because I said, Pastor James, Brother Ron's trying to talk to me. Well, Sister Dorothy, he's a good man. I'm going, huh? I said, but he white. He said, don't, because that was just the way I felt. I never saw myself with a Caucasian or white man, never did. Mm-hmm. So, but with all of the trauma that I had with my other 3 husbands, all of that, you get to a point where you let your guards down or you think, maybe this could be, and he did. Brother Ron did act like he really loved me for all the right reasons. It's just he changed those reasons after we got married. And I was already trying my best to fall in love with him. And I wanted to I didn't want to slight him, but he made it easy because of some of his stuff, around when my mom got sick, how he slept in the closet because the dog outside was barking. Oh, you probably didn't know it. It was just different things. He said that dog is barking. He slept in the closet. Now I'm getting ready to go to North Carolina to take care of my mother. I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks. And my husband's in the closet and full asleep. Then he getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to pray. That was something I did before I married him. And he would, this is so early. I'm just so sleepy. 30 minutes of that, I'm going, well, go back to bed. I can pray without you. But no, because husband and wife supposed to pray together. So we try to follow these rules. And then we had the big blowout. And when I paid for my dry cleaning, it was $80 for my clothes to be dry cleaned. And he looked at the check, getting checks in, and he threw them at me. How dare you spend that much money for getting your clothes clean without talking to me? And I went into my black female thing. I don't know who you think you're talking to. And he was like, because he didn't want you to hear what we were saying. So Pastor James came over to counsel us. I said, let me tell you something. Before I met you, I was paying to get my clothes cleaned. And I said, you can put your clothes in the machine, but it's not where I'm going to put mine at. Mm-hmm. And it's just a lot of stuff that he tried to, I had to check in here for trivial things, which I feel like this is what I was doing before I met you. And I'm working every day, so I'm not planning on stopping. So it was a lot of that type of anguish because where he was the giver and the doter, dating wise, he became the policeman. What'd you spend that penny on? What you spend? And I'm going, do you know how it was a lot. It was a lot. And then I think overall, and you remember at the restaurant when we were saying how he was mean to the white waitress, you said, Brother Ron, why? I said, I don't know which one of us said it first, but you told me, yes, you are. Oh, I'm not mean, but he would be flippant. But that type of spirit was more prevalent than I knew until after I married him. It seemed like he pulled the cover off and he became our great white hope. But I didn't want a great white, I wanted a husband. Mm-hmm. He told me that Daisy needed to scrub floors on her knees and empty bedpans. And I said, well, wait a minute. You don't think I've taught my kids anything? Evidently not. I mean, just those kinds of things when Daisy was a grown woman. Mm. But it was nothing that I had done with you all that seemed to be right. He had to do it all. And that went on for a while, and it just became where, as Pastor Gloria would say, he could make your head hang out, like he could put your head in a noose. You know, he'd be thinking you're crazy when you finish listening to him do his assessment, because he told them that I was very weak, I was fragile, and that I couldn't I couldn't maintain anything. We was having a count. He says, she's not going to make it through this counseling session. He said, because you all don't know, but she's very feeble. And I asked Pastor James, who he talking about? And he said, and so Pastor James said, well, Brother Ron, we never noticed that about Sister Dorothy. That she's never demonstrated those things you said. He said, well, you all see. And when the counselor, he was the one that was crying, because he kept trying until he got to the point where he told a lie. When he lied on me, and I started, because I was sitting at the table like, I'm gonna make sure I hold this together, and I was just smiling. But when he said that the police, she writes bad checks, and the police been here for her because she wrote bad checks, that ain't never happened. Mm-hmm. So when he did that, I just kind of looked sad. So Pastor Gloria said to Pastor Jay, wait a minute, honey, Pastor, let's not move on because something just happened. So Pastor James asked me, because I was letting Ron talk. I didn't say a word. I didn't interrupt him. And I told him, I said, well, I was okay with Ron's opinion of different things. So we all have different opinions why people do stuff. I said I was okay with everything he said until he said the police came here for a bad check. Now you all know that I've given y'all tithe checks that have bounced, so it ain't no secret. I said, but the police have never come to this house for me for a check. And Ron said, I don't know why it came. I said, no, that's not true. I said, because I was in North Carolina and you let the police officer talk to me. They came because of the fact the loan in Louisville had to move to Lexington. They needed to serve me the papers. You know why they came. Then he break in and started, so Brother Ron, so Pastor James said, Brother Ron, why did you lie? Because you see, she won't talk to me. So they said counseling session over. But all I'm saying is that there was a lot of stuff, and I don't know why, girl. I do not know why. I'm sure it was like, okay, but he constantly did that. And I think I found out later that he was really going, Pastor Gloria had set me down from my singles pastoring and the things I had, because she wanted me to focus on my marriage, because every day after Brother Ron dropped me off at school, he was calling their house crying, saying he don't think he can take that I was this, I don't know what I was doing to him, because I told, so Pastor was doing, what's wrong? What's happening at your house? And I say nothing. She said, your husband called my husband every day. After he drops Angel, he goes to a payphone, he calls my house crying, saying he don't know how much more he can take. She said, well, have you noticed how sad he looks at church? But you know, at church, you know what I be doing. I go in, I ain't paying attention to nobody. So I started holding my praise and looking at him, and I saw what she said. He'll be sitting there like he was going through something. And I'm going, well, what did I do? I openly apologized to him at church. I did everything I knew how to do to get him from there, because I was married, and I really thought that I had to stay married to Ron for the rest of my life. And I never intended to divorce Ron. I never intended. There was not, because I thought the Bible, no, this equally yoked. Mm-hmm. And he was going to the same church I was going to. People better understand equally yoked. I mean, you can marry somebody in the same church that you listen to the same scripture you're listening to, and it won't work. Mm-hmm. But when God released me to divorce him, I that's what I did. And one thing, because there was nothing I could do. He was never going to let go. I think, as Melissa said, Mama, he's racist. He really was. He wanted us. I'm not saying he was. We were with Mama, but Melissa wouldn't deal with him. Melissa says, I can't deal with him because he's racist. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I saw the truth of that. I don't know how to totally explain it, but he was better if we would have been more submissive. I had been more humble and let him, what do I do now, master, or husband, master? But he married the wrong woman. I told him, you need to look at my resume, because he told me I couldn't divorce him because I was a minister. I said, you need to check my
It
resume.
has a lot of microaggressions, like a lot of them. I have to check him when I hear those all the time.
Yeah, I didn't realize what they meant. You know, y'all know me. But I thank you, God, for releasing me.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Because he pushed me at the airport one time.
What?
Yeah, he got mad. Yeah, he pushed me.
What did he push you? What you talking about?
I called Pastor James. Pastor James, I think we need to have another counselor because this man just pushed me. I did.
Listen, you right about like what you're willing to put up with the black man versus a white dude. You had come to a different point in life.
Oh no. And I was not the taker. I was willing to give, but you can't give when the avenue for giving is all torn up, and I could not understand. But you remember his niece Stephanie? She tried her best to warn me. So I told you he was crazy. But anyhow, that's enough about Brother Ron. Yeah. Go ahead. So now we at 95. It took me 5 years, even though we separated 2 years. I went 98. So we got married 95. I went to Baltimore 98. He came to Baltimore because we was trying to make it. But he fussed at me for buying a blouse. Now I'm making $80 an hour, more money than I ever made in my life, and I buy a blouse, and I got to be on a witness stand talking about the fact that I bought a blouse. And I said to him, you know, this is just not gonna work. Mm-hmm. I said, but you know, he wanted to vow the vow of poverty too, remember?
Yes, I do remember. Yeah. He's definitely against any like prosperity. He feels like that is just not the thing.
He said you can serve God better if you don't have anything. Remember how, did you go up to the house that didn't have no running water? You brush your teeth with rainwater and take a bath with rainwater?
Of course I didn't, because I would have been like, this is stupid. Back to the car.
Well, the same way he felt about you going to the prom. He didn't want you to go to the prom, remember?
Well, no, I don't, because I think you probably put the kibosh on that. I wasn't listening to nobody, no way, by that time. I was like...
Yeah, because you remember Pastor Gloria said you couldn't go to but one prom. Remember that whole trend?
The pastor is not wanting. His opinion definitely didn't matter, so I don't think he voiced it to me. If he did, I was ignoring it at that time. Yeah. But I do remember the pastors didn't. I actually told my pastor on that story. Okay, real quick, we're going to fast forward because I need to end this.
Yeah, we need to get off of here.
So you are in Baltimore. I'm in college. You are now free to be, because you have raised all of your daughters into adulthood. Granted, I was a teenager, but still an adult enough, right? Mm-hmm. You're there. And you start going back to, is it you're back under your old pastor?
Yeah, back under pastor that licensed me, Bishop Miles. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so she's back under Bishop Miles. You are doing work. Is it volunteer work at a, how did Mr. Taylor come about?
He came to church. I was over the ones at the church, and so
we're sorry, your sound is breaking up. You were what?
The women's ministry at Cornelia Baptist Church. And so the guys from down at the center would come to church. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I met him. But he met him at the church. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the guys from the center, please explain what the center is for our listeners.
It's the addict house. It's the house where addicts live because they don't have no place else to go. And you can, if you get, sign up, you can be, you can have a bed, a cot there. But there are rules that you got to follow. As long as you're not using, you can stay there. So Walter was an addict.
So Walter Taylor was an addict.
Mm-hmm.
How did you all's conversation go past good morning, good afternoon, or what have you? How did that happen?
Well, the naiveness of your mother, I did not understand even though we had lived through Jacqueline's addiction and whatnot, but we also lived through the fact that she was delivered. So here you got this man with a nice body from his neck down. We won't go from his neck up. uh, he he testified and said, that he was delivered and that thank God he could sing. I mean, and he was participating in church. So it was one of those things where I didn't do enough of the research to understand that all addicts say they're delivered before they are delivered.
And so who approached who?
Oh, he approached me because there was another guy that was older than him that liked me first. But he just pushed that man out the way.
Wait a minute.
They both were from the same house. Okay. They both were from the same house.
So Walter was like, nah, bruh, I'm trying to holler. Because there was a 8-year, 9-year? How much of age difference?
16.
Okay, 16-year age difference.
Yeah.
So he's like, what it do, Minister Moore? And you're like, what is your response to him being actively trying to talk to you?
Well, first of all, it caught me off guard, and I did the giggly thing because it kind of like, what is this? No, I didn't know how old he was when he first says, hey, I really like you. I'm going, like who? And like, again, I'm still naive to the fact of who I'm dealing with for real. Mm-hmm. So I said, so he would say, can we go out and have coffee sometime or something like that? So we did that, and then, it increased, and we would spend time together, have a lot of fun, and he would give me those $1 million compliments. Oh yes, Lord Jesus. I was I was 50.
Yeah.
I was 50, 51 when I met him, because I met him after Ron.
You had already met him, and I hadn't turned 21 yet, so you were 50.
50. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we and so and he's just, oh yes, and I'm preaching and I'm teaching and I'm strong, but he's just I just love it. I just love the way you handled give me all the compliments every woman likes to have from a man. And then I found out how young he was, and I was like, oh no, this ain't ever gonna work. Mm-hmm. But by that time, I had gotten attached to the man, regardless of his age. So I'm like, oh my God. Uh-huh. So that's how I met him, and we left Cornelia and went to another church. Well, I went to another church. He was supposed to go to a different church, but he ended up coming and joining the same church I was at.
Mm-hmm. He's following you around.
And just like when I was supposed to be going to Alaska by myself, at the last minute, guess who went to Alaska with me?
Oh, please, let me tell y'all this story. And here's here's the deal. Now, while he would give my mother compliments, he also had a dark side. He also would like reel her in just to hold her back, type of thing. So for me, already I'm not feeling you because you are an addict, and I don't want my mom with an addict. And then also because I can see the manipulation. I can see the Jekyll and Hyde already. And this is without me knowing this man, just from the things my mom would say. I was like, man, this is the reason why I know how old you were, because I remember when I was in New Hampshire, we had this conversation. I was doing theater in New Hampshire at the time, and I think he took the road trip with us, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he took the road trip with us to New Hampshire. And none of us, we're all just praying that this is just a fling. There's no daughter of my mother's that is on board with this relationship. And we find out mom is going to Alaska, and we're thinking, hallelujah, this is what we prayed for, to get her away from this guy. Well, Mom, I want to see my mother before she leaves for Alaska, because I'm living in Kentucky. She's living in Baltimore. And while it's not that much for me to get from Kentucky to Baltimore, it's going to be a whole lot to get me from Kentucky to Alaska. So I fly out there to see her before she leaves. And Walter was like, I have a gift for you, Angel. And I don't know, Jackie was probably nice to Walter. I was probably the second nicest. Melissa wasn't about to have no type of, Melissa, my sister is a brat. So she was like, I ain't talking to you. I don't want to. I think they had gotten into arguments.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's true.
Walter and Melissa had gotten into straight up arguments because Melissa don't care. She don't like you. She's not going to like you, and she's not going to fake the funk. So Walter was like, I have a gift for you and a surprise for you. I was like, okay, cool. I'm just happy my mom's leaving. I don't care about no surprise this man got. And so we are in his car, and he's like, okay, let's get out the car because I think you all were going to the train station. And we meet at the train station or the airport. And he's like, get out the car and close your eyes. And I closed my eyes, and he said, when you open your eyes, the surprise is the only thing between you and me. And I opened my eyes, and I'm standing on one side of the car, and he and my mom are standing on the other side of the car. So I'm realizing he's giving me his car, but my response isn't, you're giving me your car. My response is, you're going to Alaska? That I remember that clear as day. I was like, wait a second. Like, I'm thinking this Negro is supposed to stay in Baltimore so my mother can flourish in Alaska. And there was a point in time when mom was telling us that she wanted, that they were going to get married. I remember Melissa threw a full-blown adult tantrum. She was so upset. And I was just like, Mama, if you could just give it a year, just give it a year. And if he can stay clean for a year. I was like, Mama, remember, we know what addicts are. Like, we've dealt with an addict. Your daughter was an addict. My sister was an addict. We know that when it comes to their addiction comes first. You might not even be on the priority list at all. It's like, number one is crack. Number two is crack. Number three is crack. Four is crack. Five is crack. We still don't know where you are on the list. But when my mother has made up her mind, she will listen to advice, but she is not about to actually take it. So they flew off to Alaska. And did you buy your ring?
No, he bought it.
He did buy your wedding ring?
Uh-huh. Yes.
They flew off to Alaska, and they got married in a ceremony there. Just the two of them. So nobody was at that wedding.
Yeah, it was some of the inlands had the witnesses. So we had some of the Alaska inland people there. Never seen before.
I meant nobody that you.
Oh no, nobody. We wore black to the wedding. We had black for our wedding.
So
I had on a black dress, and he had on a black suit.
So tell them where the tide changed then.
Well, I didn't. I really found out what being married to an addict is. I tell everyone, the only thing you do with an addict is give him a to-go box and a coat. Don't let him stay in your house.
Mm-hmm.
Because we had, I went there, they were paying me $135 an hour, and they hired him and paid him. No, they paid me $108 and paid him $35 just because he was my husband. And things got bad because the monkey would get on his back every 2 weeks. When the monkey wasn't on his back, we had a lot of fun. We climbed mountains in Alaska. We did a lot of fun stuff. But when the monkey came, I mean, it was horrible. It was it's beyond conversation. So when I realized that I didn't know what I was dealing with, I went and enrolled in addiction classes. Like went to the AAA, I went to the NAA, I went to the CO, I went to all of them.
The AA. You said AA. You said AAA. You went to AA.
Yeah, Alcohol Anonymous.
Yes.
Then they have a Narcotics Anonymous. Then they have a codependency. I went to all those classes.
Right.
Because I wanted to understand what I was dealing with. And also I wanted to understand if there was any end to this cycle. And so we had bought us was in the process of buying this beautiful house. Because you came and saw the house, right? To Alaska.
No pictures. None of us made it to Alaska.
You didn't make, okay, it was 8 months, 8 month run before I left. So we were there for we was married for 8 months. And his addiction was doing what it was doing. He broke out a patio window because he wanted the laptop so he could sell it to the drug dealer. I didn't know he'd already sold the desktop and the 36-inch TV. All that was gone because the house was so big. We had 3 levels. So down in the family, I didn't know that he had sold the stuff till I went down to do exercise and the TV wasn't there. But it was hard. But a couple times. Say it again.
Don't forget about the truck.
Oh, the truck, that was, like I said, the truck was bought in my name. I paid for that expedition. I was paying for it. And, but Walter gave that to the drug dealer.
And so
a whole truck. In order for me to get it back, I had to give him $600 to get it back. The same thing with the computers. So, but my other thing that really concerned me because they hired him because of me. They didn't do no interview on him or any type of checks. So I was afraid that he was going to start stealing from the people on the job. And I remember he had come in that night. He broke that glass door out and took the laptop. I gave him the laptop. He went and sold it. So the next day, the manager wanted a file off of the laptop and say, because he was out sick. Can you call your husband and tell him to email me the file? So I was getting ready to go into the manager's office and say, this is what we're dealing with. And he called and I asked him where was the laptop and the desktop. And he told me how much money. First time I've ever been in an attic house in my life. Mm-hmm. And I was rude to the man. I mean, I was rude, but I always think about that because the guy spoke to me, but I didn't speak back. But I was more angry than anything. And but he gave me but I couldn't give the money to Walter for him to go get the stuff.
Of course not.
So I went, and so I took the laptop and took it in my office, locked my door, and sent her the file and put it in. And I said, Walter, I says, we have to agree that you can't take this laptop home no more. It has to stay here. It didn't get sold again, but they end up letting us go because he was very much supportive of me, and he felt I was too passive to my managers and stuff, that I needed to speak up more or man the day. But I'm like, honey, they paid me $108 an hour. I ain't got to fuss with nobody as long as they keep paying me. Right. But he wanted me to be more assertive, and I wasn't. So then so that was March. We went there in August. This is March, and they let both of us go because they really just wanted to let him go, but they was afraid that they would have to still deal with him coming to pick me up because he was my husband. So they ended both of our contract that was supposed to be for 8 years. Now it's just 8 months. Yeah. So at this point, I gotta get back. I gotta leave. So Walter, I said to him, I said, well, I'm going to go back to Kentucky, but you can't come. I said, I'm not taking your addiction to my daughter's house. I've had to deal with it, but I saw how it, I mean, it was just horrible. It was horrible. But again, God kept me beyond my prayers because he's the only one that could. He gave me wisdom. I would leave the house. One time Walter came, he stole my purse, came in the house, thought he was in it for the night, grabs my purse and runs back out. But just before that happened, before I went to bed, had taken all my credit cards out, my license and everything. It was a check in there for something, that tithe or something, but that's all. There was a cashier's check. So he took the purse, runs out, and we had 2 vehicles. So I had put me a suitcase in the car because I said, if ever I have to leave in a hurry, I can just walk out the door. So when he left, I walked out the door, got in the car, and went to the hotel. Because my thing is that, I sit in meetings when people talked about how the guy said, I poured all the alcohol down the drain, and I want to drink so bad, I took the plumbing out and laid my head down to try to get a drop of the alcohol that I poured down the drain. I sold my stove, I sold my refrigerator, everything. So I'm listening to these people tell how and I'm going, this ain't gonna get no better. This is gonna get worse.
Yeah.
It was already bad, but when I listened to those people, I mean, if you look at them, you couldn't tell. Some of them was dressed, they looked so manicured, but When they got to telling what they did, I said, oh, this is bigger than me. So I left and came.
You came to Kentucky because I want to be able to close out your story.
Okay. All right.
Why? Okay, we hear that you trying to buy a blouse was the straw that broke the camel's back for Brother Ron. Mm-hmm. However, your Walter stealing your truck, selling it, your computers, laptop selling, getting y'all fired, you having to relocate, still was not the camel that broke the back of this marriage. Why did you not let him go then? And then what pushed you to finally divorce him when it happened?
Well, I started, well, one side of the point, I left Walter. He was supposed to get into rehab, which he didn't. He got in trouble and ended up going to jail. But what I tried, because for each one of my marriages, I wanted it to work. I had to get released. I could not leave just because all the signs said leave. I like to finish episodes because I don't want to go back and forth, and I don't want to feel any regret. Mm-hmm. So with Walter, I just felt that if he could get delivered, and we know God can deliver, that we would have been fine. But Walter, every time he would go down the road.
You felt that way? You felt that y'all would have been fine had he been delivered?
Well, see, no, I didn't feel that way. Because Walter used to say to me, I think we should get a divorce. I know he asked me for a divorce so many times.
Right.
Especially when he was
a jerk.
Especially when he was mad.
Why? It's sober or
that's why.
Or high, he was a jerk.
And my thing, but again, I fell in love with the Walter's treatment of me. He treated me different than any man had ever treated me. So I felt more in love with that romantic thing he did. And I never had that before. All the other husbands I had was either, they just wasn't as romantic as Walter was. That's where all of the changes in me happened, as far as putting on stuff to make me pop, make me look nice, and, accentuating all the good things, because Walter reached into my life and helped me with that. All right, so he asked me for a divorce, then he gets locked up. You remember when I came to California and went to the court? Yeah. So
I recall, because I was perplexed. I was happy to see you, but I was definitely perplexed. By this time, I had already moved to California to go to grad school, and lo and behold, my mother is still married to a man who was in prison out here in California. So I was obviously the stop that made sense for her to stay with me while she would go. And actually, when you went to go see him for his court date, though, I hadn't moved out here yet. That first court date where he got sentenced, I had not moved out here. So you were out here by yourself when you found out he was getting 7 or 8. Was it 7 years?
11.
He got sentenced. My mother showed up to be a bottom chick, like to hold her man down in court. She's like, I'm gonna hold him down. Like the Baltimore in her was there. And she was not suspecting that all of his bad doings would get him a hard sentence. But he had been sentenced to 11 years, and you were devastated.
Yes.
Yeah, she was devastated. But that still wasn't the straw.
No,
this is what it
wasn't.
If y'all realize, this still wasn't the straw. My mother was still in this thing. Still in it.
Mm-hmm. All the way.
So I moved out here. She comes out to visit him. Gets done up. We're going to have to do this as a part 4. They're asking for a part 4. I've got to end it. This has been a 2-hour extravaganza, and I have
Oh my God.
So, okay, I promise y'all we'll do a part 4. I don't know if it's going to be next week, but it will be the final part. And we'll tell y'all about Mama's life as a prison boo. We'll get you to where she's at now, being 70 years old. single.
And happy and contented. Yes.
Yes. No, nobody listening to you tell this story thinks you are throwing yourself a pity party. They can tell that you are okay with where life is.
Eat the meat and leave the bones.
So you guys, again, make sure if you haven't, hopefully you decided to listen to the first two before you listen to this third part. But if you haven't, make sure you go back and listen to part 1 and part 2. We'll be back next Thursday on Mommy Confessions. Again, I don't know if it'll be with my mom, but we will do a follow-up part 4. So just make sure you're either following me on social media or following my YouTube channel, ThatChickAngel TV, by clicking the notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload new footage, new episodes. You can also click that like button if you're watching this so that people can see you love the episode. But as always, I appreciate you all being here. I appreciate my mom for being so transparent. I just know that her life story is just going to be a blessing to so many people. I mean, yes, it's entertaining and riveting, but I think there's so many great just nuggets in there, especially of how God will work in the midst of everything that's going on in
everything. Yes.
In the midst of everything. So, you guys, you all be blessed, and we shall talk to you later. Bye.
That chick angel.